I love the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up!
What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Comment Riders. We're here to talk about Kamen Rider Geats episodes 31 and 32. Wait, is that right?
A double banger, as the people say.
I just completely lost the numbers in my head as I was saying them out loud. That is correct. Yes, a double header, a double banger. Certainly not because we couldn't record last week or anything. This was planned well in advance. We knew that this was going to work out perfectly, that we were able to combine these two episodes that are very, continuation of a story. Nonetheless,
buy one, get one common riding today only.
Exactly. 2-for-1 deal here at the Comment Riders. And bringing you that amazing Blue Light special is me, one of your hosts. I am Josh Meek, the Uber Geek, joined as always by my good friend Toby Tobes. What's up, Toby?
Josh, do you think people even know what Blue Light specials are anymore?
I don't think they do. I was thinking about them the other day. That's why I think it popped into my head. Someone had mentioned Blue Light specials online as one of those like nostalgic, like remember when you were a kid type things. And then I was thinking about how insane the concept is today. So if you don't know, a Blue Light special was a Kmart thing, and you'd be shopping in the store in Kmart, and then you'd hear an announcement come over the speaker and it says like Blue Light special on whatever product in aisle 4. And then everyone would rush to that aisle. There'd be like a special cart out in the middle of that aisle with a blue light on top that just has like that item that is like on sale at that moment. So it's like a flash sale, but in person.
Woot.com. But for 1 hour and 1 hour only, or the hell it came out to.
Yeah. So like at the time it made sense, and like it was a big culture thing. Everyone knew what a Blue Light special was, and like it fed over into the rest of the culture where it was just a thing people would say, right? Like, oh, it's a Blue Light special down at the blah blah blah. But I was thinking about it today, and one, shopping somewhere in person feels increasingly like a bygone era. And two, the fact that they could rely on people to care enough about any random old product that they're going to try to sell at like a slight discount is amazing.
We gotta get these hangers out of here ASAP.
And I remember being in Kmart and actually going to see what the Blue Light special was, like as I heard the announcement and stuff. Like I remember it being a real thing.
I don't remember actually catching the Blue Light special itself. I just knew where it was from. And then I was like, that seems like Kmart's are pretty much all but gone at this point.
I think
so. I was pretty sure that
yeah.
I'm pretty sure that there's the next generation has no idea.
Yeah, I don't think they do.
This is a very American thing.
Yeah, super, super American. If you don't even know what Kmart is, that's also reasonable. Kmart's like a Walmart equivalent, basically, but like more janky. I used to love Kmart though. Kmart was always great because specifically when a new console would come out, like when the Game Boy Advance came out, for example, everybody would be in front of like Walmart lining up for it. And no one would remember that Kmart exists and that they would also get Game Boy Advances. So then you would just be able to go to Kmart with no line and just
sashay your little ass over there and I'm here for the newest hotness, the Sega Advance, and then they would just say, oh yeah, we know what you're talking about, because they didn't know any better either. And great times for all.
I bought multiple new console launches at Kmart specifically for that, because it was already such a joke that no one else was there doing it. Like I'm pretty sure when I bought my Game Boy Advance, there was maybe like one other person like waiting to get it, like as it was going on sale as the store opened. But if you drove by Walmart, it was like, again, like a line outside.
The party.
Yeah. So Kmart always has a special place in my heart for that. There was a Kmart in my hometown growing up that closed like long before Kmart's even started closing. And that was always a weird place to buy, like, for some reason, used Sega Genesis games. I don't know why they had used copies of things, but they totally did. It was very weird. It's like, and I'm not sure if that was just like that Kmart decided to do it, or they were just like buying back people's Genesis games and like repackaging them, but
they needed money.
It was really bizarre. Yeah. Really wild.
Well, it's like the repackaging thing. At one point when I worked at Circuit City, which is a now defunct Best Buy, basically, we had a shrink wrap machine in the back.
Oh, nice.
And it never, like, I used to always play with it because I thought it was fun to just like play with the basically it's like a fancy hair dryer if you're just doing like the handheld one.
Yep.
But it never really occurred to me that like anybody that has a shrink wrap thing, you can just like shrink wrap anything and make it like brand new. And it seems super shady to me when I really thought about
it. Yeah, usually you can kind of still tell a little bit, right? Like,
well, like it's a different like it's a different type of shrink wrap. Like it felt a little bit different.
Yeah,
but still, like I mean, like I easily could have got away with something along those lines if I really wanted to.
Yeah,
if I was in totally the mood to thieve,
can totally fool the layman. I definitely knew. So in high school, the like local GameStop existed, and you would have like the local teen that worked at the local GameStop. I definitely heard stories about people using like the GameStop's shrink wrap tool to like wrap games back up and wrap things back up and do illegal activities. That and what was the other store? Oh, we had a Sam Goody. Do you remember Sam Goody?
I know the name. It's like the same tier of Best Buy, Circuit City, those kind of stores.
It kind of, but it's like it's worse. So it was like it's a CD store primarily, but
so like the Wall or FYE.
Yes, exactly. Yes, it is like it was just like those, but it was like a standalone. Well, it was in a strip mall, but like I loved going there as a kid. Like it was where I bought a ton of stupid CDs as a kid. And I had a friend that worked there, and he was nefarious, and in a similar vein, he would get up to a lot of nonsense, including stealing from the store constantly, which just seems like a little bit of like, you don't crap where you eat type thing, but I don't know, he was into it. So he stole a bunch of stuff from the store that was then paying him money to, ostensibly keep other people from stealing.
Raging against the machine.
I guess so, by stealing one overpriced CD at a time.
It's the way to do it. Hey, CDs back in the day were super expensive. I remember like new releases being like $20 some, which is like way more than they are now somehow.
Yeah, and well, there too, like obviously the like Walmart would have them cheaper, but Walmart never had like the shit that I wanted, right? Like
or they had the edited versions, which was always
oh shit, you don't want those. So like the Sam Goody was really the place to get it, but like, yeah, like you're saying, like it's $20. But Sam Goody would sometimes have the international version that had more songs on it, so it was even more expensive. But it was like, oh shit, then I get this crazy one that has these like, B-sides that I've never heard before.
I get up to 2 bonus tracks for an extra $7.
Yeah, you're always doing that math. I remember. You remember like CD singles and stuff too, because those are always a pure math thing of like, well, this costs $5. But it has 3 songs on it. I only really like one of them, but 3 songs for $5 isn't that bad.
I remember getting them every once in a while, but like for no real reason. Like reflecting back, it seems really stupid to buy one song on a piece of media because like the cases were almost always thinner too. Yeah. So it's like the weird random cases and be like, oh, I guess I went this song, but like I feel like singles were never like. It was never like, oh, here's a single for a song album's coming out in 6 months. It was like, hey, this album just came out, and if you just want to buy this one song, you can. Like it wasn't like now where they hype the new release. It was, hey, just buy this one radio hit that we have, versus the whole album if you want to.
Yeah, it was they're trying to hit that same crowd that would like buy a single song on iTunes right now, or not even now, like 10 years ago when buying music on iTunes was the thing. It's the people who like, well, I'm not going to buy this whole album because I don't want to spend the $20, but I'll buy the one song or the couple songs that I've heard on the radio. Yeah. Which then like, yeah, that person's whole collection is just like, hang on, you're going to love this song. Let me pop out this CD and put a new one in that only has one song on it. And then when we're ready to listen to the next song, I'll take that CD out. We'll put a new one in. It'll be great. We'll just constantly be changing CDs. What a party.
Hilariously, it's why people give me shit about records, because it's almost the same vibe of like, especially if it's like a 7-inch or like a little one. It's like, okay, I'm going to get up, walk over, put this song on for 2 minutes, sit down, start to enjoy it, and then have to get my ass back up and flip it over. And then there's all the fun. If it's a little bit crappier, there's like the static and the pops and everything. And it's the whole vibe. I'm here for the vibe.
That's why I generally don't do like records when I'm working. Like if I just want to put some music on and then go do another activity, that's really not when I'm putting records on most of the time. But like that makes records really good for like, I'm actively listening. Like this is the activity that I'm doing. Cause then it is, it's a bit more like, I'm sitting down, I'm forcing myself to do this like singular activity. Like maybe I'm also like reading the back of the jacket or something as I'm listening to this. It's funny, back in the day, actually. So like record players now are like generally pretty high quality for the most part, but like for the most part, you just sort of like put the record on, put the needle where you want it, and it starts playing. Records back in the day, they were like trying to solve that problem of like, yeah, it sucks you have to get up so often. Because my parents had a record player that was out in like the 70s or something, where you could like load up multiple records on it and it would drop them one at a time as it played through them. So like
that's
it would
amazing.
Like, yeah,
that's
you could queue it up. Yeah. It was just weird that like we lost that tech to time somehow. It was like everyone decided like, no, we're just gonna play one at a time again. Like we figured it out, but we're not gonna bother with doing that anymore.
I want like an automatic flipper. That's really all I could. That's all I would really need. It's just
which was also a thing that used to be a thing for sure.
Yeah, and now it's gone.
Yeah, the one that my parents had. Well, actually, my parents theirs was like built into the wall as well, which was crazy. Like
the old school console TVs where like this is your home entertainment center. It's made of wood and
yep,
fancy looking and
exactly that, except like embedded into their wall, which is the most unforward thinking thing in the world. Because for my entire life, that record player didn't work. They never fixed it, and the only thing that it was good for was putting your action figures on and letting them spin slowly as they went around and around in circles. But it's embedded in the wall, so it's still just a feature of the home, right? It's like, well, this is always here. People are going to walk by and say, "What's this weird drawer do?" Like, well, that's our record player that hasn't worked for 35 years.
You should have fixed it. You really dropped the ball, I think.
Yeah. I mean, me as a 3-year-old definitely let that one down for sure.
What a jerk.
But we don't do that anymore. We don't embed things in walls as often, I feel like, in the house, which is a real miss, Well,
I mean, like, everyone mounts their TVs on the wall now.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
I know, and the big thing now is built-in shelves too.
Yeah.
Which I always find weird because, I mean, in theory, like if it's a living room, it's always a living room. So it seems like it should be okay. But if I need to get mobile, you're not taking that with you.
You're saying if you leave the house and you want to take those shelves with you?
Or in general, you want to redecorate and like rotate the room 90 degrees.
Oh yeah,
get the proper feng shui going for that time of the year.
You are locking those in. Yeah, those are there. You can always, like, if you're putting a built-in somewhere, like a bookcase, something somewhere, it's probably fine to always have books there, or like always have shelving there, no matter what the rest of your furniture alignment is.
I guess so. It just seems silly.
It does. Yeah.
Free the shelf. We're starting a movement tonight.
Everyone go to IKEA, buy a shelf, let it go. If it comes back to you, it was true love.
Exactly.
Toby, I'm going to click one more time on this freaking stupid webmail server that is dead. Yep, it's still dead. Okay, never mind. We don't know if we have any emails tonight because
the webmail's dead.
Webmail died. Everyone thought the print would die first, but turns out it was email this whole time. So Toby, let's jump right into our episodes then, since
let's do it.
Have no idea if anyone wants to contact us.
We probably have like 50 emails this week.
Probably did. We have a lot to catch up on. Yeah.
And now we have nothing to talk about. Now, sorry guys.
We took a week off.
You have genius ideas, and here we are. No one knows.
Yeah, this is really, it's a grand scheme to not have Charlie give us any more ideas that are better than our own, I think is what it is.
Either that or I'll sneak in later and just delete all of his emails that have been there forever, and then
maybe that's what it is. Maybe you blocked me from the email account. I was like, no, we're just gonna pretend like their server's down, and Josh will never know. Delete all these emails before they come in.
4D chess.
All right, Toby, Kamen Rider Geats, episode 31 and 32. We are ostensibly here in the final round of the Giamato Grand Prix. So these two episodes put together are kind of the culmination of the Giamato Grand Prix. We get to see the final battle, I guess, and the end of the Giamato Grand Prix. We get to actually see a winner. So we're not going to recap the entire, plot by plot of both the episodes, but in general, I guess we'll talk about what's happening here and then kind of hit some of the high points. So the game this time around for the final round here is what Baroba describes as a heaven and hell game. So,
which is a fantastic name.
It certainly is, yeah. there's a giant goddess floating in the sky for no reason, and the city that they all live in, which I realized as I'm watching this, I don't actually know what city that is. Is it Tokyo? Are they just in Tokyo?
I think they never said. I think it's supposed to be like a
Yeah, it's just
fancy something or another where like Anytown, USA.
except Anytown, Japan. Well, the city itself is floating in the air. They raise the city up, and a goddess appears. Giamato appear. They seem to start attacking people. However, circles appear on the ground that are different colors, and the people realize very quickly, all the citizens, that when they're standing on the colored circles, the Giamato don't attack them. So they all get on circles. And then we find out that the goddess that's in the sky, this kind of crazy looking monster goddess,
it's definitely like, it looked to me, it was like a JRPG, like final
boss. It was like
boss.
A summon. Yeah. It definitely did, for sure. Because it's like, it looks slightly angelic, but like way more demon. Yeah. And like obviously towering over the entire city. It was a weird inclusion, I felt like, in the episode. And I guess they needed like a face of the judgment that was happening. But it seemed to convolute things when we're talking about the real goddess, which is the one that, is Ace's
the statue
mom.
Locked up somewhere, wherever that room is.
And then we introduce another different, unrelated goddess that's floating in the air. It just felt like it was a bit of a hat on a hat type of a concept. I didn't think we needed both of them. But anywho, the goddess is going to pass judgment, basically pick a color every once in a while, and that color square or that color circle will disappear. The people on it will fall through the hole in the ground and essentially fall to hell. They'll turn into bubbles and they'll get floated up into the goddess is what the game basically is.
I thought it was hilarious. It's basically like a Mario Party game that they're playing with like the highest of stakes, though.
It truly is, yeah.
And at one point, I not realized, but like you kind of realize that like, so everyone picks a color, and once you know how the game works, there's a lot of times where the evil goddess would be like, the color is yellow, and there's like enough of a pause where if people would just jump off the yellow circle, like I think they all could have been safe. But there's that weird reaction time of like Wile E. Coyote like falling off the cliff when he looks down.
Yeah,
like they just like kind of pause, and they're like, "Oh no!" and then they just fall to quote unquote hell, aka bubbles in the sky.
Everyone acts as if you're like totally right. Everyone acts as if they took a beat and forgot what color they were standing on, and then you have the like, uh-oh, and then the bottom falls out. Yeah. Of course, we have our heroes being heroes. Like Kawa saves his sister Sarah from falling, and then Ace saves somebody as well. Like they're quickly in the mix, kind of keeping everything from happening. Sarah also is kind of a hero throughout this. Like she's protecting a little kid along the way. There was a really funny scene sort of between rounds of the game where all the like survivors so far are like huddled in the subway. It's like a war scene or something. And I was like, well, why didn't they just go home? Oh, because it's all floating in the air, I guess. But then I was thinking like, wait, no, they're in the air too, because they're gonna fall off. So like, why didn't they just go home? I don't know why they had to huddle in the subway.
Yeah, if it's the whole city of Kamen Riderville, like just go chill somewhere until noon tomorrow, because they kept saying like the next round starts at noon.
Yeah, they gave an exact time. Yeah, I just didn't understand why they had to hide, but I loved that scene of like they're all in the subway and like candles are lit. KWell comes over, who's like, are you guys holding up okay? It was very much like war-torn city. Which I get being scared of the Giamato. That's legit, but yeah, it seemed pretty clear. No one was going to bother you again until noon the next day. Then things, we start to correlate the game we're playing, of course, with, like I said, the actual goddess and Ace's goddess. So that's sort of the big overarching theme here. Is Ace finds out that his mom is the goddess. Part of that happens with the confrontation with the producer. Ace basically goes to ask the producer, like, why was I born? Why do I have this power? Like, tell me about myself. The producer says, oh yeah, your existence is an anomaly. People from the future can't have children with people from the present day. Our anatomy is different, basically.
So he's basically a wish baby, like Neon was, just a different type of one.
Yeah, because the producer goes like, there is one way it could happen, and then they don't actually explicitly say it, but like it's very clear Ace like realizes the one way is that he could be a wish baby, and he puts it all together basically that his mom must be the goddess. And then later Daiichi shows up and kind of rubs it in his face a little bit and confirms everything of like, yeah, it's your mom. She kind of sucks. It's like she, so his explanation of the whole thing, which I don't think is true, but his explanation basically is your mom wanted a child. She couldn't have one. So she had these insane powers and she stole everyone else's happiness so that she could form you. And in doing so, like, became the goddess. But like, that's really not what we saw in that vision. The vision was more her getting yelled at and then being forcefully turned into the goddess too. So I think Daiichi's still lying, but that's what he told Ace, was that your mom wanted you to exist and put her happiness over everyone else's. So here we are.
And so the other big takeaway of that conversation then is that, I mean, in theory, they could still be Neon's long lost love for her wish, but that means her and that weird kid cannot get together.
That's true, or at least they can't produce a child.
It's against the DGP bylaws.
Very, very true. We also didn't see him at all these 2 episodes, which was nice. I appreciated not seeing him around. We didn't see him because we also didn't really see Neon, but I'll take my wins where I can get them.
Yeah, they're all basically dead at this point. They're on the episode, they're dead to me.
Yeah, we find out that the sort of I guess transaction that's taking place with the goddess is that the goddess converts happiness into the power to create worlds. So when people are turning into bubbles and going up into the goddess in the sky, that's sort of their happiness being taken away. And that's kind of what Daiichi says. That's what Baroba explains, where people sacrifice their happiness to fuel the happiness of one. That's sort of the core of the Desire Grand Prix, is what we find out. And
there's even a fancy little animated chart of like when happiness comes off this side of the scale, it has to go on the other side of the scale, or else everything's unbalanced.
Right. That's what Kekura explains, because we even talked to him about it, and the little frog guy basically confirms like, oh yeah, that's how it works. Yeah, you can't. There's only so much happiness in the world. We got to have it someplace. So. Ace isn't super into that as a concept, doesn't love the idea that his mom is involved in the one, forcing everyone's happiness away. He, takes this pretty hard. But the one thing that I hated about these 2 episodes was, for some stupid reason, Keiwa blames Ace for all of this. Like, Keiwa overhears Daiichi explaining the whole concept of like Ace's mom and stuff. And then Keiwa confronts Ace about it and is like, my family was happy just being together, and like, you took it away. And he like gets all up in Ace's face and is yelling at him. And
yeah, like Ace was definitely having like, I'll call it like a moment of weakness, where like he was soaking in all of like the insanity that's going on around him.
Yeah.
And for how like cool Keiwa was about other things vaguely with Neon and everything else, like he pretty much took the asshole stance of like, my parents are dead because of you. Even though Geats had no idea, like, he was remotely part of this or where he came from, or it's not like he wished Keiwa's parents out, like his mom did it. I only can like really fault him for such things, but
that's what pisses me off so much, because it was like last episode, maybe episode before last, where Keiwa was literally saying, hey, all the circumstances of your birth and your upbringing and your powers don't matter, because you're still Ace, like you're still yourself, like it doesn't matter.
It's not your fault, buddy. I don't care if you're from the future or not.
And now this freaking thing where it clearly isn't his fault and he has nothing to do with it, Keiwa's like, I hate you.
I'm leaving. You're not going to see me the rest of the episode. Fuck you.
You're not going to see him the rest of the episode because, Toby, he dies. Buffa and Keiwa do a little fight, and Buffa pushes Keiwa down a hole, and Keiwa turns into bubbles.
I thought it was hilarious because this is like the second or third time now. Like, out of the core group, Keiwa is the dyingest or most resettingest of all of them.
He really is. Yeah. He truly is. That kind of leads us into kind of the big showdown, I guess, in the second of these two episodes, where we just have Buffa and we just have Ace left, and their whole confrontation kind of spans the course of the episode. I One of my favorite parts about these two episodes, I think, was the actual fight that Buffa and Ace have. Like, that felt insane. It's some of the best, I think, fight choreography that we've seen in the show so far.
It felt real.
Yeah. And the two of them finally getting to like unload on each other without like any repercussions or without any like, oh, we shouldn't be doing this type thing, was very cool. Like, that felt earned by the time we got there. So I really loved all of that. The wrinkle that gets thrown in all this, though, is the gardener, Archimetal. So he, in one of the most horrific scenes that I've ever seen in a Kamen Rider, feeds himself to a Giamato. That happens at the end of episode 31. And we only see it in shadow reflected on the wall, but it is still pretty terrifying.
I thought it was cool because, like, in the beginning of 31, he's like his final Giamoto baby. He's like, drink the special fertilizer, and he's just like injecting his own blood into him.
Yep.
And we find out that like all he ever wanted, like truly, like even in his crazy little death scene here and everything else, like he just hates all of these people. Yeah, and he really literally just wants his little plants to grow and lead fruitful lives and everything else. Like,
I thought they did a really good job with. They've done a good job with his arc, like, because he's been going along with like Baroba's stuff, but the whole time it's been him like crying about the dead Giamato, right? Like he'll let her have his Giamato to go do his game, but then the game will be over and he'll be like, "No, my babies, curse you!"
Yeah, this time specifically, he was like, "Even Rook's gone. What am I gonna do? You're my last one."
Yep. So he has this really cool transformation. He gets eaten, but then because he was eaten, the Giamato that ate him gets to turn into him. Basically, like they basically like assimilated him.
And then like later down the road, he like when they do the "Look at me, I'm a human too," like they did with the firefighter guy weeks and weeks ago.
Yeah,
like he just talks like him now. Like he was in one of the fights and just talks in this crazy voice and gets all excited and he's ready to fuck people up and.
Which that actor's amazing. So yeah, the fact that actor can like get in fights and use his insane voice now in fights is perfect. Like, yes, more of that, please. I also love that he finally got to have his little confrontation with Baroba as well. So like, you know, she was like, "What are you doing? Like, why would you fight Buffa?" kind of. And he gets to be like, "I don't think Buffa's my ally at all," and you know, you also kind of suck. he got to do her little eye thing back to her.
And the best part of that fight argument, whatever, is he calls Baroba an old hag.
An old hag, yeah.
And I just think it's hilarious because like she gets so shocked and offended, and then thinking about like should like their ages are obviously will float college age for them, like. Technically in the show, like they're supposed to be of that age even though they're not, but it's just funny because like at that point for filming she was probably still 15, and this like crazy old man screaming at her about being an old hag at 15, and like the duality of the actual scene just like cracked me up.
Yeah, that is pretty great. They actually, I think so, one of our first confrontations with Jean, they point out that she's like 400 and some years old.
That's true. It's like Rita back in the day.
Yeah, exactly.
Thousands and thousands of years old.
But yeah, the actual real life version of that did crack me up as well. Like you said, this crazy old man screaming at a 15-year-old about being an old hag. That's good stuff. Just the idea of like, yeah, her a 15-year-old there with this crazy guy and with Buffa just like sitting on this like dingy staircase is just a funny scene in general when you think about it. It's like, what is happening here? It's kind of funny. Buffa's or not Buffa's, Baroba's kind of like change throughout like the whole Giamato games. Like, I feel like when the Giamato games first started, she was like a really scary villain. And at this point, she just is getting pushed around kind of by everyone. Like they try to frame it at the end of 32 that Ace and the producer kind of taking each other out was her plan the whole time. And like maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, but like along the way, Buffa just kind of did whatever he wanted, and she didn't really stop him. And then the gardener also just did whatever he wanted and told her off, and she didn't really stop him. So it just kind of seems like she wasn't super in control of the whole situation the whole time.
Well, or we're gonna say that she's as smart as Geats and did like the long con of like, if I nudge them in the right direction and just kind of let things go,
yeah,
it'll work out the way I want to, and then it quote unquote did at the end.
That's true. Yeah, it could be that for sure. But yeah, as I said, the ending here, of course, Buffa wins Buffa wins the Grand Prix, the Giamato Grand Prix, because Ace kind of has a big confrontation with the producer. So Ace goes and Ace finally gets a hold of the Vision driver after his fight with Buffa, which actually had a really cool moment. So Buffa seems to have the upper hand. Ace like gets hit, dehensions, falls down on the ground, but in doing so hides his gun and is able to like shoot Buffa at the last moment, because he pulled a little Fox moment again, which is pretty cool. But in doing so, he gets a hold of the driver. He gets to go meet the goddess, basically. So Ace finally gets to be face to face with his mom.
That's basically what we're saying.
Yeah, which was kind of a sweet scene. Like he like is crying, and he's saying like like what I've looked for you for so long, and kind of he breaks down, right? And then like kind of out of the shadows, the producer shows up, and he's like doing a slow clap like a true villain. Ace at that point like asks like, hey, why is my mom silent? Like, why doesn't she say anything? The producer says it's because she became the goddess. And then Ace asks the big question of, did she willingly become the goddess? And the producer kind of sidesteps the question. He's like, oh, the reality of this world, it's how she planned it. And then there's this like horrible sound that happens. It's like it's like the sound from Tenet or something. Like the big or no, it's not. That's not Tenet. I'm thinking of Inception. It's the sound from Inception. Yeah. And Ace describes the sound as the goddess crying. He thinks, of course, she's being exploited.
Which is like, and the whole wrap around to all that is completely like wacky to me, because like he went from, okay, I finally found my mom, to all of a sudden he has enough foresight to be like, his first question was, well, did she want to do this? I don't think she wanted to do this.
Yeah.
Like, why is she doing this? And that turned into the crazy siren thing. And he's like, my mom is crying. I know this is her crying.
Yeah, and maybe that's like grasping at straws at anything at this point. I think he, obviously walked into that room knowing not to trust the producer and knowing not to trust the DGP in general, which makes sense. So I think like did she willingly do this is like a perfectly good question, probably from his standpoint of like, yeah, these people have been pulling shit on me for like literally like 2,000 years. They probably pulled some shit on my mom too. But that led to the big fight, of course, between the producer and Ace, which again was an insane fight. The big culmination of this fight, basically they fall down one of the big holes, and
the hell holes. They fought in the hell hole.
They fight in the hell hole, like all kind of anti-gravity crazy stuff. It's wild. And the big ending, which this was insane. Again, one of my favorite parts. Buffa shows up, realizes that the two of them are fighting, and he does this insane like zombie strike finish where these like big fake zombie hands go through the ground, one grabs Ace, one grabs the producer, and literally drags them to hell, drags them down until they bubble away, which was so badass. Like I really, really liked that part, and like a great win for him, that like he finally came out on top. He beat Ace, he beat the producer, he's got everything. And
he's both drivers, he's ready to go.
Yeah. And we end the episode with him in front of the goddess basically saying like, grant my wish, let's do this. And then the world starts to get rebuilt. I guess, yeah, it's important to note too that the wish that gets granted is specifically the power to destroy Kamen Riders. So we see at the end that like a bunch of the Giamato pop back up, like all the ones that got destroyed sort of along the way, which is interesting. So it'll be interesting to see who else sort of comes back to life um, in this version of the world, I guess.
I feel like they're all going to come back. Like him word making that wish. He didn't think of the right way to word it.
Yeah,
because
there's
like,
gotta be something, right?
Well, I mean, obviously to keep the show going. So the two options based off of the ending is A, all the people that got held get to just come back because he needs Kamen Riders to be able to defeat the Kamen Riders.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. It's like you can't have the power to defeat something that doesn't exist. So here they all are again.
Yeah, so there was that, and then for the stupid heaven or hell game, the only people that won was Sarah and the kid she was watching. So if Sarah's still around, even if the Giamoto come back, I feel like we're setting up for Sarah to become a Kamen Rider.
I hope so. I think she deserves it.
Because especially like wrapping around to the beginning of 31, her and Kayla are talking about something, and she's like, "Where's Neon? Neon's missing. I miss her. My whole life is ruined because Neon's not putting stuff on TV anymore." So like, it seems like if she is in a state of dread right now, it seems like the fix to that is to make her a Kamen Rider and then let her have her own new life world, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I think that'd be cool. She's been like more involved in the show than you would think a family member would be. You know what I mean? And yeah, I think like the like late game someone becomes a Kamen Rider is like fairly common in the history of the show. So yeah, I hope she gets it. Hope she gets the driver and gets to become one for a little bit.
And I forget how 30 went. So Neon didn't get. I know she lost, or like she's morally defeated and walked away and sad. But technically, she's still there then too, right?
Yeah, because she didn't actually like. Yeah, she got like defeated, but like
morally, she was only morally defeated,
right? Because we end the episode with her going off to like find a new place to live, basically. Yeah.
So her and Sarah could team up and be Kamen Riders for the end of it to get her brother back and Geats back and all their bullshit.
Oh my god, Sarah would die. Sarah wouldn't be able to contain herself. Her favorite streamer needs her help.
Exactly.
I love that Sarah, like, again, like, just to remind everyone, has like had dinner and spent a whole wonderful evening with Neon. Like, ostensibly, they're friends at this point.
Yeah, or like as close as you can be to someone who like shows up in your life here and there. And
I love she still is just like such a follower of her social media accounts. Just like hangs on every tweet or whatever. It's like, where is she? Like you probably have her phone number at this point. I would think. I don't know. At least you had a moment where you could have asked for it and not been weird.
Yeah. Oh, you're friends with my brother. That's cool.
Yeah, cool.
Let's
we should hang out
sometime.
Yeah. So Toby, how do you feel about, this is the end of the Giamato Grand Prix. How do you feel about the Giamato Grand Prix arc of the show?
I'm glad at least finished something now. And it's kind of cool. Like, obviously, I would say this is the end of Act 2 in the traditional sense of 3-act things.
I'd say absolutely, yeah.
So at least we finished the game for once. There's an actual ending and a winner that we got to see now. And, like, obviously it's going to be cheesy, corny stuff to get everyone back in. And, like, obviously or maybe not obviously, but most likely the heroes will prevail here. So like it's a great downer to set up the end of it. It's basically like The Empire Strikes Back of the original Star Wars trilogy.
I was gonna literally say it was the Empire of the
yeah. So you send everyone home unhappy. You go, wow, I can't wait for the end of this shit now. This is gonna be fucking crazy when it comes back around. And that's basically what it is. Like Geats is trapped in carbonite and Luke's in hell too, I guess. And
yeah. Yeah, after watching 31, so the first of these two episodes, I wasn't quite sure really like how I was feeling about the this arc, the Giamato Grand Prix. Like the games had been like a little hit or miss for me here and there, and I hadn't really felt a ton of like the character development that had happened, like in some cases. Like I wasn't a Kiyun fan, for example. But then 32, and like the way they wrapped it up, we got those 2 awesome fights. I love Buffa and sort of where he's at the end of this game. I love everything he got to do. The gardener, I love everything that's going on with him. He's great. I think we ended in a really cool spot. I think overall, like you said, it's very Empire. It's very like, oh, shit's bad for our heroes. What are we gonna do? And I think that's super cool. We've got like a lot of villains really set up at this point. We've got obviously Baroba, the gardener, who has his own, weird, nefarious things that he wants to get done. Buffa obviously is a huge main villain. The producer, if he comes back at all, is a huge villain. If not, the DGP in general is like a major villain who has control over all this stuff. So there's a lot of things working against sort of the main writers. If any of them are even alive, obviously they're definitely going to come back. But yeah, it sets it up in a darker spot than I guess I expected that it would be. But I'm excited about where it goes next for sure.
Well, and like the other like final piece that was like kind of a throwaway scene, but was like important-ish, was when Neon's dad was talking to the producer, and the producer was like, "Yep, just so you know, when this DGP is over, we're just leaving. Like we're done now.
Yeah.
We're not." And Neon's dad was pissed because he was like, "That wasn't our original agreement. There's whatever syndication rights they have going on here for this show." So like the big fight was like the producer said like, "Well, if Geats wins, I guess it doesn't matter, does it?" But like I think that would be the final tie. Like her dad wants to set something right, and since she's still around, that works. And like I don't know, I feel like it's going to end with like the DGP being some weird happy fun thing at the end, or like some respected thing, versus they said like it's turned into like a trashy reality show basically. Like it wasn't the initial plan for how it was supposed to work. So that tie is still there too, to like make her dad a hero of sorts to fix things and set things right.
Yeah, the fact that we're still getting those types of scenes, like, Neon's not really in play these episodes, but we still get the sort of threatening scenes between the producer and her dad. Like, yeah, either he's, in my opinion, gonna like attempt to throw a wrench in them leaving the world here, so they can't for some reason. Like he's gonna be the reason that they get stuck here, or he's gonna end up being their downfall, like kind of behind the scenes somehow or something. So yeah, there definitely is gonna be some shenanigans for sure that come around. But as you said, we didn't touch on it, but the research, I guess, that we find out that Gene did was kind of interesting, where originally the DGP was not a life or death contest, and they competed for a coin, just like Ace has.
Yeah, the OG winner, the Geats coin.
Yep. But the after the goddess was created, the game started becoming for creating your own world, and it became a life and death game, and audiences ate that up basically.
That's why she cries, because this is not the dream she had when this all went to shit in the beginning.
She didn't want to be a trashy television that makes everyone unhappy and kills people. Yeah. But yeah, I think cool stuff overall. I'm excited to see what the final arc, which we're heading into now, is. Again, like we say every time, it'll be interesting to see if they still try to keep the game conceit to it in some way, or now if this is just full on like Buffa is Darth Vader going after the Kamen Riders. So we'll see. Yeah,
I feel like they can't do. I'm sure they will do one more, just so everyone, the main trio, can do their things. But I feel like they, at this point, even though it's like the whole point of the show, I feel like doing another like Grand Prix of any style would be a little bit too much at this point.
Yeah, because
like
kind of
doing it a fourth time for no reason, because they always just wipe they never finish them. The only one that actually finished was like so the bad guys would win. Like
yeah, and we already have gotten to the point of like Ace being like, why am I even bothering fighting? Like I just like die and get reborn anyway. So like what are we doing here? And we also like everyone is so against the DGP as a concept now, with the whole happiness stuff. So yeah, I feel like the sell will be hard if they try to do another game. Like, I don't know why anyone would actually want to compete at this point.
Like, I think the only way you can like maybe do one last one is you'd have to put all the bad people and the good people together, and like would have to be like Neon's dad versus the producer of like Neon's dad says, "Okay, this is my team, this is your team. If the good guys win, we keep the world safe and nothing bad happens to anybody. And if the bad guys win, maybe we do something else and like they get to leave like they wanted to, and everyone gets mind wiped and all that kind of bullshit."
That could be cool. Yeah, that could be very cool.
But that would have to be like the last way I could see a game working-ish. But even then, that's still the kind of thing that we just saw with like the producer versus Baroba. Basically, it's just up another tier of power and control kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Well, crazy. Yeah, I love that the show still has me very confused about where they're going to go and confused about how this is all going to wrap up. It continues to be quite exciting. So that's going to do it for us for this week, talking about 31 and 32 of Geats. We'll be back next time for episode 33. Of course, if you want to check out all of our past episodes, you can do so. Search for the Kamen Riders in your favorite podcast app, or just go to KamenRiderSucks.com, where you can find a playlist of the video version of all of our past episodes, and you can just go crazy binging them there. You can also send us emails, cast@KamenRiderSucks.com. And of course, we have a Patreon as well. You can join our Patreon for weekly additional content, lots of fun stuff, and join our Discord community at the same time for a measly $3 a month to get all that awesome stuff. So links down in the description for all of those things. And you can follow Toby and I in the world of the internet when we aren't talking about Kamen Rider. Toby, where can the people find you?
On Twitter, it's @LifeOfTobes, and on YouTube, it's Tobes Plays.
And for me, I am on Twitter and Tumblr @PrettyDeeceJosh in both places. And I'm just waiting for that Blue Sky invite. It'll come any month now, I think. That's the new hotness, apparently, Toby.
Josh is trying to cash out of the world.
Trying to cash out of Twitter. Been trying to cash out of Twitter for a year now. But here we are. I'm getting dragged to hell, just like Ace.
You picked the wrong color circle, buddy.
All right, that's gonna do it for us. Thanks again for listening, and we hope you join us back to talk about the next episode of Geats. Peace.
I'm taking shots at the enemy. I'm gonna make it to the top, leave a legacy. If I got something to say, you better let me speak. Turn it up a new degree, bitch, you ain't seen anything. I pop off with the new rock, electric.